Friends, I was recently on a panel and we were discussing the problem of homelessness here in Spokane, what we need to do to solve the problem. And in the course of that conversation, I used the word enablement and what we're doing oftentimes and how we're enabling homeless people to stay caught up in their bad behaviors, their bad choices. And so an individual on the panel got rather upset with me for using that word. So I thought today what would be helpful, sometimes we throw out words, but we don't define what they mean. And I want to take a minute and talk about how I define enabling. I believe it's whenever we reinforce irresponsible behavior or whenever we reinforce destructive behavior, we're enabling people in the wrong way. So as I think of that, I think about homelessness, and oftentimes I've said, the main issue revolving around homelessness is addiction. I understand this, that the woundedness of people often drives them to make choices of choosing drugs, alcohol, whatever it may be, and then that addiction ends up oftentimes destroying their life. So what do we do when we find homeless people that have ended up in that situation? What does enablement look like, and what does help look like? Well, let me start by saying I believe everyone needs a warm place, especially in cold nights, to sleep. But at what point are we enabling people in their addiction, or are we actually saving and helping and loving people? I have here in front of me one of my favorite drinks, Dr. Pepper, which I have to say, if there's some addictions, it's probably one that I could confess to right away. But let's say it was alcohol or whatever I drank or the drug that I used caused my behavior to be irresponsible. Maybe it caused me to move out of I lost my job. I moved into the local city park, and that's where I hang out and live every day, and I either do drugs or I drink my Dr. Pepper. And my behavior not only is caused me to lose my job, but now it's also causing me to trash the area in which I live. And it's affecting other people. It's irresponsible behavior. Or maybe the drug usage is so destructive that if I continue, it's actually going to take my life. To me, if we don't step in and intervene and have accountability and help someone with the consequences to those poor choices, and all we do is continue to give them more Dr. Pepper, continue to feed them, continue to provide them with everything that they need so they can continue in their destructive lifestyle, that's what I consider enablement. When you really love people, do we want them on our streets? Do we want them killing themselves with the drug of choice? As a follower of Christ, I think sometimes we get confused between enablement and compassion. And if Christ being our model, we look at what he did, it's interesting that when the man was blind alongside the road, he asked him, "Do you wish to see? Do you wish to be well?" with the man in the pool. It was always a choice that they had to make. He never forced himself on anyone. But what I also love about Christ, he never left someone in their destructive lifestyle. He always healed, he always helped. And I can't find anywhere in the scripture, because of the compassion of Christ, that he kept someone in the state in which they were. He called them out and then he healed them. When I think of the Good Samaritan, which many people talk about, here's a man that not by his own choice ended up being robbed. He was in need. But you know what's interesting about that story? He didn't go back to the side of the road. He moved on with his life. So I think when we think about enabling and compassion, our compassion needs to lead people out of homelessness, out of addiction, by making a choice and giving them a choice. So again, just summarizing, enablement in the eyes of homelessness, I see as when we continue to reinforce irresponsible behavior that affects the culture and the society in which we live, or if we continue to support destructive behavior. When you think of helping the homeless, what does it really look like? And I believe it holding people accountable, loving them in a way that they're responsible for their choices and moves them from the street to productive citizens is what we want to do here at the Union Gospel Mission.